My first oil change on this 2019 Dodge Ram Hemi Beast. Let's go. First thing, pop the hood and take off the oil cap so there's airflow. This Ram is roughly at 8,000 miles for the first oil change, with the gauge showing 16% of oil life. The Dodge dealer in the manual says don't let it go past 10,000 miles for the first oil change. I didn't want to cut it short and figured I'm better off sooner than later. I'm going to use this drainage pan. I like this one because the container is enclosed, so when I take it to the auto repair supply place, it's easy to hand it over for them to drain and recycle the oil. When draining the oil, you'll want to make sure the plug is open for airflow. Under the cap are these two holes. I'm concerned this is going to overflow, so I'm going to cut these out to make one bigger hole. I'm going to use Mobil 5.7 20 synthetic oil. The Dodge manual mentions synthetic is not necessary, but you can still use it. I figure synthetic is always going to be better. Also, the 2019 Hemi takes 7 quarts. You definitely want to make sure you don't overfill the oil or you'll have engine problems. Then, instead of the standard Mopar OEM filter, I'm going to use the K&N, which they say is one of the best oil filters on the market. This is double the price of the Mopar. You do have to make sure you get the right model compatible with your truck so the threads and the sizes match. This HP 1017 is compatible with my 2019 5.7 Hemi, at least it better be. Another thing that's great about this filter, you can use a wrench to tighten and loosen it. Okay, let's cut this out. This is a hard plastic, but I found stabbing it with an X-Acto knife did the job. I didn't want to hold the camera and cut, so you get the point. Here's the finished job. The flow should be much better. I'm really concerned about the mess, so I'll use this cardboard to catch splash over, if there is any. Also, I found the oil filter practically impossible to get to unless you raise the truck to get underneath. I'm using these Rhino ramps for easier access. Obviously, you want to make sure the parking brake is on and even put blocks behind the back wheels. Make sure this doesn't roll off. Getting underneath here, this is the drain plug. Right below it is the sway bar, which oil will leak on this, and I want to minimize the oil cleanup. I think it's good to make sure the engine is warm, not too hot, enough so the oil will flow and won't be cold and thicker. I decided to use a small plastic trash bag to catch the overflow. Spread it out as much as possible. This should work well. Okay, now we're all set up and the pan is in the right position to catch the oil. I used this socket with a 1/2 inch and an extension. This was perfect to get to the bolt. Once loosened, I did the rest by hand. And there you go, it's flowing. The plastic definitely kept it off the sway bar. I let it drip out as much as possible. Then I cleaned the nut and replaced it. When putting the drainage plug back, you don't want to make it too tight, just firm. Be careful you don't drop the nut when putting it back in. I did this and it fell right into the hole of the oil pan. I went to the auto supply house to recycle the oil and I was able to fish it back out. Good thing I have another car to drive down there. Now, I noticed there wasn't any videos that I saw that showed exactly where the oil filter is.
It's pretty tucked away, so let's take an exact look of its location. The best way to get to it is from the front of the truck. Crawl in head first, go under the radiator, and there it is, deep in there. Generally, you should be able to loosen this with your hands. I wasn't able to. The factory put it in pretty tight. I covered everything with plastic from the drip and tried to use a plastic bag around the filter. It was too difficult with the plastic bag because I had to use an oil filter tool to get it off. The angle was really bad. I tried to come in from the bottom, but I was able to get a better leverage reaching through where the radiator was in a small opening. You can see here with the filter off, and now it's time to put on the K&N. You're going to need to make sure the old filter rubber ring didn't stick to the engine filter housing before you put this on, or the new filter will most likely leak. Also, when you're getting ready to put the new oil filter on, you'll want to take a dab of the new oil and spread it around the new rubber ring so it goes on smooth. You can see the top of the K&N has a spot to tighten with a wrench. This definitely made my life easy and will when I have to take it off. This also just needs to be firm and not too tight. You don't want to over tighten this. Now let me show you how to reach in front where the radiator is to get to this. This is one way without going head on. Both situations are tight, but I did find coming from the radiator compartment allowed more leverage and space to loosen and tighten with both tools. This was the toughest part to get to. So again, a closer look. This is from underneath head on. And this is from the radiator compartment. Now I'm ready to pour oil in the funnel. You want to do this slowly to make sure you don't overflow and get oil on the engine, obviously. I'm using Mobil 5-way 20 and again 7 quarts for this model of Dodge. Now to reset the gauge reader. On the left hand side of the steering wheel, keep pressing the up arrow until you see vehicle info at the top and oil life in the main window. See, I'm at 16%. It will tell you to select the center OK button to reset. If your car is running, you'll get the message to turn the engine off. Once turned off, press the start button without pressing the brake until it says run. The engine shouldn't be running. Then go back to the up arrow key to vehicle info and oil life and select OK. That's it. It's reset at 100%. It's a good thing to check the oil pressure, which you can also do with this gauge. It should be around 50-ish psi. This is going to vary if you're just idling or driving the highway. Check the owner's manual. Well, this was my first oil change on this truck and it wasn't bad. I hope this helps, and if it did, let me know by giving me a thumbs up and subscribe for other random stuff.